Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to my channel. This is Shaun Sundahl from the Security Investigations Leadership Channel. Today, I have an exciting guest that I want to introduce to you in a second. I'm going to have Fred Piry coming on in a minute. He's not on stage yet, but he will be here soon. I'm just so excited to do this presentation. To offer this outstanding information to you guys. We'll go over his resume very briefly. I don't know if you guys saw the movie The Man on Fire by Denzel Washington. Fred is the South African looking guy of Denzel Washington. Anyhow, and he probably has more credentials than that. He sent me about a 10-page resume before we got started, and we'll give you the condensed version for sure. So give me 1 second and I'll introduce to you Fred. And I don't know if you guys have been noticing, but we've been working on a California Post Dignitary Protection course. It's a 32-hour course. We got it certified by the state, and I worked together with Fred and his team in developing this class. He developed the outline, and it's a go. California Post approved this class, so we've been talking on a weekly basis. Anyhow, let's begin here. There we go. Hi, Fred, welcome. Welcome, sir. Okay, Fred. Well, you have like 10 pages of resume, and I think like over 50 years of public service. Can you give us a?
You make me feel old, Shaun.
No, for sure. Yes, can you please give us a breakdown of your experience? We see a lot of these so-called experts commenting on the Charlie Kirk assassination, and they don't have any experience. They don't have no real-world experience, and it's pretty frustrating. The news frames them as an expert, but today we have a real expert. Fred, can you lay down your qualifications?
Sure. Early 70s, it started for me. In the early 70s, I enlisted in the Marine Corps and made meritorious PFC out of boot camp, tested real well, sent me on as an 0311, which is a infantryman, did my training with everything there. And I got selected to come to Washington at 8th and I, which is the premier spot for a Marine. And that kind of launched my career. With there, I got selected, worked at the White House, worked up at the UN, selected on details. It was President Ford at the time. I spent a lot of time in and around the Secret Service. And I was also one of the fitness guys on the side for our barracks there at 8th and I. And started playing handball with one of the Secret Service agents who was about 10 years older than me. And we hit it off, still stay in touch with the guy. He's been retired for years. And he said, "Hey, Fred, if you really want to do this stuff, you got to think about leaving the Marine Corps, get an education, and that." And that's basically what I did. I got discharged out of the Marine Corps then after I left, honorable discharge, went on, got my 4-year degree. And then I graduated late 70s, and Reagan had just taken over, and then they put a halt on any federal hiring. So I kind of talked to my mentor, said, "Hey, what do you do?" So I was working as a teacher at the time, and started my family up, and I went and got a master's degree then in public administration. Bombings happened, and he called me up and said, "Hey, Fred, there's an agency there." It was the Office of Security with the Department of State. And they sunk billions of dollars into this through Reagan at the time was the president. And they had a big hiring on there, and it became the Bureau of Diplomatic Security. And I came on there in the mid 80s with that one. Went through FLETC. We do a lot of different training, but we went through FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. We come on, and then we did our own, added on course. So it was another about 8 months of training there. Then I went to a field office where we're doing investigations and also do protection. So that's the big thing for diplomatic security is, we run the embassy securities overseas, and we also do protection of dignitaries. We work a lot with the Secret Service. They'll do some presidents, prime ministers. We do foreign ministers, everybody else, and then whatever they can't think of, diplomatic security does. We also do the Olympics. We do the Olympic athletes. They've been doing them since Seoul, Korea, in '88 and '84 in the Los Angeles. So I did a field office for a couple years. Then I was selected into the prestigious mobile security deployments. It was mobile security divisions at the time. And that is kind of our counter group, SWAT, whatever you want to call it. We called it tactical support teams. And we also did instruction, the Marines and Americans abroad and things like that, giving them personal security training, self-defense training. We did rape awareness training, surveillance detection, firearms training. We did all kinds of stuff. So when I got in there, we have a green team that was almost 9-10 months long. And we began, going through training, getting our instructor ratings on a lot of different things, counter-terrorism driving, became instructors in that, self-defense, firearms instructors, all those types of things. Post-blast investigations, I did ATF. I did the FBI's post-blast investigations, trained at the agency on certain things, skill sets, IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and then we deploy. So and that was the late 80s and into the 90s. I deployed into Central and South America a lot. The Panama thing kicked off. We were down in Nicaragua, El Salvador, the drugs stuff going on in Peru. So we were down there doing high risk, protective security for our ambassadors, down there. Did 4 years with them. I ended up going with a team I took into Desert Storm. When was that? 91. Took in Ambassador Skip Ganine, protected him, and we opened up the embassy. So deployed a lot, with those guys. Also did a lot of training with our friends, across the river, and also special operations. We worked a lot with Dev Group. We never called it SEAL Team 6. That was after the Bin Laden came out, and everybody knows SEAL Team 6. They're always Dev Group, Naval Special Warfare Development Group. So we did in their green team. We did, I set up almost a 2.5 week training program for their protection that culminated in 4-day actual exercise on there, and also SOTF or the unit or CAG, Combat Applications Group, or Delta we did the same thing. So I was kind of a liaison to both units and worked with them and deployed. Then after I went on a lot of deployments with MSD, and with that training, I liked going to the high threat post. I was selected, went out as the assistant regional security officer for my first overseas full-time position.
It looks like we lost a little bit of connection, Fred.
Yeah, we lost a little bit of connection. So, I spent a year and a half running the protection at the embassy there, working with different elements there and training and stuff. Came back and got called in, and was going to our counter-terrorism unit that just got renamed Protective Intelligence. And I got sent down to Haiti to head up an operation down there to take in President Aristide back to Haiti and install him in there, train up a Haitian Secret Service with some contractors, former guys that I knew from CAG or Delta, and that were retired. So spent about a year down there and working that operation there, moved on. And so I was back with our protective intelligence group, and we would supplement high threat protection there, working out in the second and third perimeters of security and things like that, all around the world. conducting counter surveillance operations while we're doing protection, watching who's watching us, those types of things, doing evictions of them. And then we were doing a lot of, led a lot of investigations for, let me see, we had the assassination of the embassy, or excuse me, consulate employees in Karachi. I was in OPM Sang, the operation, or excuse me, Office of Paramilitary Operations, Saudi Arabia group, where we had some Americans got blown up. So I was there with the FBI team, and did Doha. That was Khobar Towers, which was one of the largest non-nuclear explosions that happened there, that took about 16 lives there in Saudi Arabia. They hit one of our bases there. So I led the team there. And then also the embassy in Nairobi, when we got hit, I led the team in there, investigative team. So I worked a lot with and some of the same guys from the bomb tech groups for the FBI. So the FBI goes into, much like the Charlie Kirk, they go in and try to arrest people. We're in with a different mission, protective intelligence. What is protective intelligence? We go in, what happened? How did it happen? What are the leaks? As far as shoring up our other 200 some embassies and consulates, do we have any holes in those type of things? Whereas the FBI can take their time and collect the evidence and look for prosecution. I did interrogations of some of the guys that we caught to find out things. We learned a lot with the terrorist groups. No one knew what they were called back then. They were Al Qaeda in the 90s. Okay, I was also part of the team that went into Pakistan. Our RSO, the regional security officer, and the assistants were pushing the Pakistanis through the door to get Ramzi Youssef. Ramzi Youssef was the 1993 first World Trade Center bomber that killed about 8 people there. He absconded, left, and we had the Rewards for Justice program. Basically puts a reward of $1 million up to 10 or 50 million. And we had somebody turn on them and the information. I was traveling with a couple FBI guys, and we were in the Philippines tracking him, and they said, get over here. We got it. We're hitting them. So I came in about an hour after they went through the door. They got him. I stayed at the house there and started going through the evidence, looking at it. It was the same stuff that we found in the Philippines house there. And they were these dolls that were stuffed with a cotton and a combustible liquid there. And they were trying to, if you look it up, Operation Bojangle, they were trying to take down 10 747s, to include the Pope at that time. So turned him over to HRT, was there. They came in the airstrip there, and they turned him over to HRT. And so, Nairobi happened after that. I went to Nairobi on that operation. That was pretty devastating there. There was like 250 some killed there. We learned a lot in the interrogation of one of the survivors of the terrorist group. And in doing so, we gained a lot of information. And that was, he was young. He was about 22, from Yemen. At least that's what his passport was. And this was his first operational mission. He's been on several other missions as a surveillance cell. So the surveillance cell and the operations cell never meet. So this was his first time. He got cold feet right when they picked up, because the guard at the back wouldn't open up the gate into the back area of the embassy there. And shots were fired, and he ran out. The driver panicked then and ended up detonating. This guy made it about 50, 60 yards away and hit the side of a building, and he took some shrapnel in the back. We got him when the hospital found out he had a weapon on him and came into the hospital. And so we got and snatched him out of the hospital once we patched him up, and then interrogated him and stuff. And then that led to some other people, and we brought rendition, brought 1 or 2 of them back to the States with it on a C-147 or C-47 and or C-17 at that time, and brought him back. So that, and then got recruited. I went on to the secretary's detail for 3 years, with 3.5 years with Madeleine Albright. So I was all over Korea. We went there for about 10 days. She was the highest ranking person since the Korean War.
Did you, Fred, did you mention North Korea?
North Korea, Pyongyang, yes.
Wait, you were in North Korea?
I was in North Korea protecting Madeline Albright. That is correct.
Interesting. Okay, just want to clear
Left
that up.
there, came back, could have picked anywhere I want. My former DCM, which is a deputy chief of mission, the number 2 in Beirut, was going to be the ambassador. It asked me, hey, would I go back as the senior regional security officer into Beirut in 2001? And I said, sure. So I got over there in August, and a month before 9/11 happened. And from there, the world's never been the same. So we were locked down. We had a lot of demonstrations at the embassy there. I got back from my tour there and got sent directly into Afghanistan and then over into Iraq. So I spent, from 2002 till I retired. And then, I left. I set up the detail for President Karzai. We set that up with contractors. We use a force multiplier. We used DynCorp at the time, Triple Canopy, and then Blackwater. So DynCorp had that contract, and we oversaw them and running in the key positions there. So I set up high threat protection, that we had protection in the Gaza Strip. I had a lot of other missions I don't want to get into at this time, but it's kind of a recap of all this and all the training, constant training and things like that. And set up high threat protection and was running the worldwide protective services contract that we have at our high threat posts around the world to use contractors along with special agents to run the details, because we have sometimes thousands of these guys there. So retired after that, went to SOC as the chief operating officer and grew that program there. Got us on the WIPS contract. I took over the Baghdad Embassy Guard Force from Triple Canopy. And also I ran the agency contract, which is similar to WIPS. And also had Los Alamos Nuclear. So I was running all those programs as the chief operating officer for that thing. Grew that programs up there. The company was bought out. I got a golden parachute from there. No hard feelings. They wanted to bring their own leadership in there, and then did some consulting for a while. Went back, did some consulting for Triple Canopy, and left doing that. And with Jared and another friend, Rick, started up, we were the co-founders of Active Crisis Consulting. And, we've been, in 2019, we've been doing that. And we've had some nice contracts, and we're still doing a lot of work there. And we're utilized a lot as consultants. We did 3 years of Major League Baseball. We did their red team penetration testing, testing all the 30 stadiums and writing reports on that. We do a lot of physical security assessments of some of the Fortune 500 companies. We do undercover types of things. How I got to meet this fine gentleman across from me was we were applying for our California license. And with my background of running guard forces and that around the world, I was one of the only owners that qualified to be the qualified manager. And Shaun can talk days about all that stuff. So I had to take the qualified manager exam, and I was doing flashcards and studying on this thing. And this old goat was learning new tricks. And someone said, hey, why don't you try this online course that Shaun offered there? And then from there, it was funny because you do this long enough, you find out you're never more than 1 or 2 degrees of separation. So in talking to Shaun, I took the course, passed the test. And Shaun, I said, Shaun, you're really helpful with this thing. We're talking. And he goes, hey, I was talking to my buddy Randy, and he said he's heard of you. And he also is a good buddy with one of your partners. So it's this small world that we have, because my one partner, Jim Foreman, was a command master chief at Dev Group and retired. And he was good buddies with Randy, who's a good friends with Shaun. And we kind of hit it off real well. And he was very instrumental in getting us getting post-certification. We're working some other courses there. And that's kind of, brings us up to where we're at now. But with this unfortunate incident, the assassination of Charlie, Shaun and I were talking. We wanted to have an open thing to welcome your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. I did one with a good classic firearms and also has Copper Kaya. He does a lot of kind of discussions. So we get into some discussions there. And I did one on President Trump's attempted assassination one last year and stuff, and kind of talked about it right after the event and some of those things. So go ahead, Shaun. Give me some questions.
For sure. Thanks so much, Fred, for going through your bio. I mean, you can write a book. We could write a book about you.
Well, yeah, I'm featured in Relentless Pursuit by Sam Katz, and they kept bugging me to write it. I'm still too busy doing things. At this point, I am right now 12 and a half time zones ahead of you. So I'm overseas right now doing some work with our U.S. government on some security matters. So go ahead, John.
Okay, so September 10th of 2025, we lost a great American. Charlie Kirk lost his life from an assassin's bullet. Probably, I think it was like a 30-06. He shot from an elevated position, approximately 180 to 200 yards out. He was later apprehended, I think a few days later, and the media, the general public has a lot of questions. We have a tight-knit security community, and I know a lot of my colleagues are getting inquiries from those who want executive protection. Even on the law enforcement side, this incident is bringing a lot of, I hate to use the word business, but that's what it is. It's bringing a lot of business. It's bringing a lot of concern. We have a sniper instructor class coming up in about like a month or so, and we keep getting these sniper teams contacting us. But it looks like these managers, these trained coordinators, the chiefs of police, they're approving a lot of these types of training, dignitary protection, sniper training, because of incidents like this. So I know we've been talking the whole week about the Charlie Kirk incident. I think the best way of starting this is we'll show some footage, and I will not show any violent footage because of the YouTube algorithm. And I want you to comment. I want you to talk about what the current security standards are in the industry. What is the best way to protect a principal? What does good security look like?
Yeah.
And let's start with some footage.
Go ahead.
Okay, give me 1 second. So what we basically have here, this is maybe 20 minutes before the incident. Charlie Kirk is giving out free MAGA hats. It says 47 on it, and that's what we have right now. And whenever we go through the footage, Razor just asked me to pause, and I can do that.
Okay, Shaun. Most of the reading I've been doing is through the open source information that's available, that's out there. So here, let me set the stage for this event. Apparently, Utah Valley University in Utah, there, a low crime area there, and it's an open air out in the quad area of the university. About 3,000 people, okay, outside. So he's going to be on a stage in a little bit there. So I'm kind of setting things up. Now, here are some things. I saw some of your questions about, how do you secure something like this? Well, again, let me set the stage here. So you got 3,000 people. They did not screen any of these individuals, their bags or the individual. They did not walk through magnetometers or any of that type of stuff, okay? Unlike President Trump in Butler, PA. They were screened in the inner area there with the crowd and things like that. So these people were not screened, okay? And I believe from everything I've read, and Shaun and I had looked at the footage, anywhere from 5 to 7 of Charlie Kirk's protective detail are there, and they have 6 police officers that are attached to this event. So go ahead.
Sure. I think this might be. Okay, let me pull up some more footage.
over the last 10 years.
So what I'm showing is the speech right before he gets hit.
Count. Stop! In America.
Okay. So that was his protective detail there that was moving him off stage. Shaun hit me up earlier and mentioned that from the time they moved him off stage to into that Suburban was what, 1 to 3 minutes, you said, or 1.5 to 3 minutes, Shaun?
Okay, so the news reported in time without the milliseconds. So it was 12:20 he was hit, and then at 12:23 he's being loaded up. So that could, because the milliseconds are missing, maybe anywhere between 1 to 3 minutes.
Okay. Now, I saw a couple questions pop up like, hey, how do you secure an event like this? And how are we to do this if we're, private security, we're unarmed and those types of situations. So I can delve into this thing. I said, first off, let me explain, executive protection, protective details, EP work, dignitary. You see where you came from, what you're calling it. We just call it, PRS, protective security. So no longer being in the government like the Secret Service or diplomatic security service. These guys have a background. I don't know what security company had the security there. I'm sure that most of those guys have decent resumes, for doing this type of thing. Okay, so the key to this, much like Butler, is the advance agent and the operational plan of the security for this thing. And depending on the time and the resources that you have is going to be how elaborate and detailed it will be. Okay. When I was with the secretary's detail, every time the president left the country during Clinton's time, we were with them too. So we did joint detail. So I worked a lot with the Secret Service. I know what they're doing, what we all do the same thing at different scales and different places. We're probably in a lot more high threat areas there, things like this. I can say that the outdoor events are the most difficult and challenging that a protective services officer will have to do. First off, you don't have carte blanche. You're not Secret Service. You're not diplomatic security. Not California Highway Patrol. You just can't shut everything out. So if the hosting agency is only going to give you 6 officers, you make the best of what you have. Okay. Open air. I did read, as I mentioned earlier, that they believe this was a low threat place because low crime and things like that. However, threat analysis, social media, Charlie is a high risk person or was a high risk person. So wherever he went, that was the threat, not the campus itself. Okay. If he was in Los Angeles, if he went to Oregon, if he went to Maui, you still have to take a look at what is the threat that follows him. Okay. What is the threat that follows him? So, in doing an advance like this, generally 1 or 2 people, depends on your resources there. They go out ahead of time to meet with the event planner on this thing and then mirror up with the police force who has jurisdiction in that area there. Because you got to remember, even Secret Service, diplomatic security, we always rely on the locals. They know it best, and they have assets that we can utilize and things like that. So I know that they did because they had 6 officers assigned to them there. I read on some other ones that they did. They had up to 60. It just depends on how much resources that they have and how much they can give to something like this. The concerning thing is there that they weren't screened. Okay, so you have to take a look at that. And Charlie, from what I've seen a lot of times, he likes to get up front and personal with people and debate them close to close, person to person. Now, the outdoor event is probably one of the most risky things there. Now, 16, 17 months later, it happens. Trump survived his attack, and that was within 100 yards. This sniper shot him from 200 yards on a second-story flat-top roof area on the quad that looks in there. And I know you have a picture of that there.
Okay. You want to pull a photo up or a video?
Yeah, if you can pull that one up, that'd be great. If you can pull that one up, and we can show the distance there of that there. So, what do you look at? So again, the operational plan or the advanced agents putting together saying, okay, the protective detail is going to work the inner diamond area there that we call it, the personal threat, somebody trying to come up, embarrassing situations that throw like a pie in his face that they did with Bill Gates on stage that time, or somebody come with a knife or a bomb or some type of a weapon. And that is basically, close protection types of things of those types of events. But, more and more we're seeing rifles being utilized in things and standoff distance types of things. And we have to look at that. So if you look at Charlie, where he was on that stage in that green area there, location of Charlie, and you look at the possible location of the shooter. Now, everybody does it a little differently. Some people start where you're going to be and work their way out and look at it concentric rings and perimeters of security and things like that. It depends on how much time you have and how thorough you want to be with it. Okay. So if we took a look at where Charlie's going to be on stage, you want to look at a couple things. You're always looking at, okay, is there a hole? Can keep him close by if the crowd surges on him and those types of things to get him off stage. So you concern yourself where he's going to be and how you get in and out of that place, not through the crowd there. And you start working your way out of those types of things. You look at your egresses, have a primary and a secondary, those types of things. Where are you going to have the cars? Where are they going to be positioned? Do you have a secondary area that you're going to put the vehicles to leave the area if the other one's blocked? Those types of things. Okay. An event like this is the host, which was the university. Are they going to have an ambulance on call right there? Because with 3,000 people, heat stroke, those types of things, just for everything, would that be an option there? So those are the medical aspect of it. If not, you want to have, we do hospital surveys. We know the local hospitals, what type of trauma can they handle, all those things. So you hold right there. You got 1, 2, 3. We counted these guys up the other day, plus the driver, 6 to 7 of these guys. Now, we don't know if there were others that we haven't seen here, and they're piling him into a Suburban and driving off there. So
I have the video.
Okay, so he was bleeding profusely at this point. They probably made an assessment on stage very quickly that they had to get him out of there. So they're loading him up here and they're leaving.
That's where we counted 6.
Yeah, and then the driver there too. Okay, so
they've
got
know who the guy is with the white hat.
Yeah, I don't know. So on the advanced team going out there, 1 or 2 people, that site area there, you're really going through every bit of detail that you can with this. And with a guy that has that profile, I would put as much time as I could into that venue site and saying, okay, what are our deficiencies? Well, who made that decision that we're not going to screen or wand? Maybe it was overwhelming and they just didn't have the resources. Number 1. Number 2, who made the selection that it's going to be an outdoor event versus an indoor event where you could control the crowd a lot more, funneling them in, going through a magnetometer and those types of things there. Okay, so you're looking at all those things. Then you're looking out and going, okay, where he is, what are the vantage points that can see or have direct line of sight down to the stage area there? Now, they had a small canopy, but that canopy was more for a concealment, really not cover. And the difference between concealment and cover is, I could get behind a curtain and conceal myself, but it does not offer me any type of ballistic protection, which would be cover, behind a wall or some of those types of things. Something that is more rated, not just to hide you, but also provide you some protection there. So that kind of canopy right there is getting him out of the sun. Okay. Now, if you look probably way back at 200 yards, he could see right underneath there. So it didn't afford him to be way back and have a shroud over top of him where somebody from a vantage point could not look underneath there.
And the shroud is, I think that tent we're
There.
talking about, it's all the way on the left part of the screen.
Yeah, exactly there. So, okay. I saw a question pop up there earlier. My company, Active Crisis Consulting, we've got some good tech people there. I believe in utilizing, nothing takes away from the brain power that seasoned advance agents and protective agents bring to this whole thing. And I like to say it's a force multiplier. I got into this thing on the attempted assassination of President Trump about where was the technical division group with the drone? Well, they were running into difficulties. I said, so what? Put up a cheaper drone. You want to be able to look down and look at that vantage point. Military operations take the high ground. Whoever takes that high ground has operational control, military control over an area there. Okay. So if you can't put people up there for private security, it's going to be very difficult to have people and that much resources to put up there. If you can utilize the police, that's great, but those are errors. If you can't control that, then you have to do a sweep of that area up there or send up drones. Now, there are some restrictions with drones, and you have to clear that. For something like this, how far are you from an airport? How high are you going to go? All those types of things. I'm surprised they didn't have ballistic blankets for extraction or anything. Good question. I at the stage there, they just kind of carried him off the stage, didn't they? But, getting back to the use of drones, Neil and I, my one other partner is former SEAL. We were doing a physical security assessment for a large venue site, an outdoor event, 22,000 people. And they wanted a security assessment. And also during the event, they wanted us to provide overwatch. They had police on the ground and things like that. They had an operations center. We fed our drone into the operations center on these huge TVs for the police. They loved it. Okay. And we could reach out because there was some woods area there. It was in the Ozarks. They came in. It was an outdoor concert event area there. And, we were like a force multiplier with the use of that. At night, we ran the thermal on that one and could pick up people. And they had somebody who assaulted somebody, and we were tracking them with the thermals and calling it in to the police where they nabbed the guy and things like that. Wow. So again, it was just two of us providing overwatch. So we became force multipliers there. So your question that popped up was a real good one, using technology there. I did one of these on the Uvalde active shooter things. We utilized some drones, and there's a Hornet that is about this big, the size of a praying mantis. A little pricey, $7,000 to offer to police departments, but it's more towards inside. Now we had close to 300 armed police agents ready to go down and storm, but it was a command and control. Nobody gave it till people came in and said, hey, we're feds. We don't care. We're going in to end this thing now. But the use of a small drone like that Hornet, sending it down and making a left-hand turn to see where the bad guy is, solves that, and you can go down and assault. You're losing time. So the use of technology, I'm real big on that. It doesn't displace the fact that you need to go out there and get eyes on this thing. Now, with the drone too, you can do a couple things. You could go out with the advanced team and take pictures, because the guys that were with Charlie at the time, that was probably that morning when they got there, most of those guys, that was their first time on that venue site. So if they can go out and film, the advanced agent goes out and films with the drone and shows, hey guys, here it is when he's doing the debrief back on the op plan. Hey, here's how we're getting in. Here's how we're getting out. Here's our react plan. Here's the high ground. Here's this. Here's that. And these guys get to see this thing and filming it. It just really, it gets you a lot better avenue to be able to protect somebody there.
Interesting.
How does he feel? Of course, things have changed a lot. I told you, when I started this thing, we didn't have cell phones, guys. And I'm a big proponent of utilizing what technology is out there to be able to accomplish the job. So comment as a Route 91, so how much of a challenge open air can be. As I mentioned, the open air is a big challenge because it can utilize a lot of resources. If it can move indoors, you have a better avenue to control it. If your principal thing outdoors, you want to try to set up a lot of things as far as screening, those type of things, and especially that high ground. We're big proponents on also, I can't speak, I didn't see where the police were in this thing, but having undercover protective intelligence floating in and out of a second and third perimeter, 80 yards to 100 yards out, walking, looking for suspicious people, those types of things. Part 107 is real looks at having non-aviation oriented people, just a bit of study. Okay, good, thanks. Now, I'd like to say something with this thing and the alleged assassin. This thing follows a classic steps of a terrorist attack. And I told Shaun the other day, I will bet money, as much money as I can, that guy did not just show up the day and pick that rooftop. He had done pre-operational surveillance prior to this. And I'd be surprised with Bongino and Patel that they're not picking up, hold on a second, prior days and finding him in some video somewhere on that university looking at that rooftop. Because he showed up, what did we figure, 40 minutes prior to that event? Okay. Well, yes. If you've never stepped foot on an operation and done anything, you're not showing up 40 minutes and figuring out, where am I going to do this thing from? Why did he choose a long rifle? That means that he knew right away. So the terrorist attack basically already started his target selection of Charlie. He's going to go after Charlie. So then he goes out and he conducts surveillance of the place, pre-operational. So he's there prior to the event. Okay, I don't mean just the day of. I mean maybe a couple days prior to that. Okay, and they're going to have to look for footage of that one. And I would say that that's not the first time he stepped foot on that roof, because he had, and I'll get into this, he had an escape plan there too. So he did pre-operational. So during that time, he's looking, how do I get out of this place? Where do I set up to take the shot? How far is it? What do I need to accomplish that? And how do I escape out of there? He goes back, then he shows up the day of. He has the equipment to do it. He had a Mauser 98. I guess it was a 30-06 caliber, which is a 308. And he takes the shot, at which time, he shoots one round and he moves across catty corner to the far end of that. Okay. And the way he moved across there, he knew it wasn't the first time he knew that was going to be a long drop. Okay. Because somebody who's doing it the first time is going to look down there and think twice. He moved along there, knew what he was doing. All right, dropped the bag first there, hung down, then he dropped, then he walked and moved his way out of there. Again, so he did pre-operational surveillance. Then he went back and figured out all the logistics he's going to need from this. He's successful, plans his escape, which he did. And then one of the last things, he exploits this thing. He got back on social media and says, hey, I did this. And that's the classic, Al-Qaeda does the same thing, but again, they may blow themselves up but they do the exploitation. So sometimes with a suicide bombing aspect, escape is not an option that they have there. But this guy, he went through the whole elements of an attack there. Multiple undercover armed operators could pose as attendee, but possibly only in environments with a good excellent. I think one of the other questions is the armed aspect of it. Again, these guys bounce from state to state. You got to look, some of them, like me, I'm retired, and get under HR 218, can carry in all 50 states. Others can only carry in certain states, and then others are forbidden from carrying. Again, it's this gray matter that is going to keep you alive there. It's not what people see on the movies of Jean-Claude Van Damme and everyone in, self-defense. That's all good to know, but I want somebody that's smart, thinks on their feet, action plans, plan B, plan C, can lay out things, not just present problems and problem solvers. These big, bodybuilder types that the Kim Kardashian and male model looking guys, That's great for pushing back and keeping the press and the paparazzi out there. Are they really doing true protection? Probably not, but I'm sure they pay well. But active crisis consulting, I'm really not into protection. We get involved in protecting people who, because of their position or who they are, have threats against them or their family. One of the other things, Shaun, I mentioned to you the other night, and for your listeners here, is that the budget drives this thing, how large and how much resources you can do. At the top of the list is Zuckerberg. His executive protection or personal security, they spent $24 million. The last year they accounted for was 2024, and I'm sure it's going up. So that's people, resources, technology, vehicles, all that. Then it pretty much takes a nosedive. I would say the average billionaire and Fortune 500 CEO is anywhere from $3 million to $500,000. Okay.
Wow.
Musk was at 500,000, but it increased, and he's right around 3 million. I can tell you some of the other ones are right 2.75, anywhere from the 2.5 to 3. But what does that buy you? What does that buy you? I'll tell you what it buys you. $3 million. $3 million buys you about 5 to 7 personnel, not to include the vehicles or the technology or the residence watch, the alarm systems, and everything else to go with it. That's purely on a billable salary on these guys, taking the daily rate from what kind of, I know what the industry norm is there, but that's what, and guys. And I would say if it comes out, you do some internet sleuthing there, you're going to find that that budget is anywhere from 2.75 to $3 million. And that's what that buys.
Wow.
Now, in government standards, that's not that much. Those are small details, we call it, compared to having, counter assault teams, counter sniper teams, having a drone support, a lot of the other stuff that, we would utilize, especially overseas in high threat environments and things like that. But, with your clientele and your listeners, private security, those are some of the obstacles that you have to overcome. Budget. People think, hey, I'm going to hire a couple bodyguards. Just a couple bodyguards isn't cheap, because you figure, 24/7 a daily rate, how many guys to complete having 1 or 2 guys on a shift, we do the formulas for guards and things like that, 8-hour shift, you get California, you get into the 10 hours overtime, then double time and all these other things. If it's straight after 40 hours, so there's a lot of labor laws that you have to look at here. But, just speaking there that, $3 million is going to buy you, 5 to 7 protective agents. And, again, all the other stuff is icing on the cake that you can get for it. Your alarm systems, your residence watch, your computers, your alarm systems, all that kind of stuff, drones and everything else. So I just wanted to kind of highlight, that's the arena that I work in now. I'm out of the, that's the arena I worked in the government. And now, I'm working in that same restrictive area that all your listeners are working in, and we look at ways to overcome those types of things. I do like technology. There's new stuff coming out all the time. You don't need the latest and greatest and the fanciest of you. I think the biggest asset is the proper people. I've got some excellent partners here. I just want to do a quick shout out. I've got Neil, a former SEAL. I've got Aaron, a former SEAL. I've got Jared, an attorney. Itar, whiz bang tech guy. He keeps us with new stuff. And I said, what the heck is that acronym? Okay. Jim Foreman, who I mentioned earlier, leads kind of our director of training and operations there. Leading that was Dev Group and stuff like that. And our newest addition that we brought on about 1.5 years ago is Colin Kilrain, former 3-star Admiral, SEAL. So we're heavy SEALs and a Marine myself. But the people that we have as a small veteran-owned company, we are a boutique security company. We come in and everything we do is tailored to a client. So whether we do protection for one client It would be different for another client, depending on the resources that they have, depending on the threat analysis that we do, and all the other things. Our training's the same way, with you and Randy, and that we, as you know, with Jim, and that we tailor it to whatever the police agency is, depending on their expertise and things like that. So everything we do is tailored to that. We're big on the protective intelligence, having under around those areas. We have a couple clients in California that we're doing that with, and it's worked out real well. We do the threat assessments and work with their operation people. They also have unarmed people that are with another company that is there, that has to wear the patch and all that kind of stuff, that deals with it. We're kind of in the shadows and watching and seeing things before they develop there. And we also are big with the active shooter programs. Our uniqueness with the active shooter programs is training the police that are close to our areas there and giving them the skill sets, because we find more and more it is the average patrol officer, not the SWAT, who is going to be the first to engage the threat. So we give them the skill sets to be able to actively and confidently go in to take and neutralize the threat. I know that's kind of my pitch there on active crisis and stuff. We do, if I know Shaun was mentioned, hey, I'm not in a hiring thing here. We have a network. We're always looking for good people in our networking, because you never know. I get phone calls for overseas stuff, certain things. We're heavy in the tier 1 guys and Rangers and Marines, Raiders, SEALs, Dev Group guys, CAG guys, a former DS, Secret Service, FBI even. We have PJs, pararescue guys from the Air Force. They're great to have on a protective detail, because not only could they be a shooter, but they're at the level of a physician assistant. Not that take anything away from any of those guys that were trying to help Charlie there, but I don't know their background. Maybe one of them was medically trained there beyond the trauma. I used to teach a TCCC. Tactical Combat Casualty Care course for selected government agencies that were going to the high threat thing. And we would I felt so proud at my age of still doing this stuff almost into 5 decades. That's why I keep doing what I'm doing, because that satisfaction that comes back of saving people's lives. We would do the live tissue training and scenarios with them before they were going into Afghanistan, Iraq, and other high threat areas there. And it was a lifesaver, because, they're putting on tourniquets. We learned so much. You got to take something bad, which is war, and learn from it. Our medical procedures have increased so much to save limbs over Afghanistan, and because of the IEDs and things like that, whereas before people would bleed out. In the early days when I was a Boy Scout, they talked about tourniquets and using your belt, and that was like the last resort. You never took it off. You did this, and they're probably going to lose the limb, but you'll save the life. Now they're saving limbs and everything like that with these tourniquets and everything like that. But whatever, in the private arena here, some of the things I would recommend. Everyone, I see stuff on LinkedIn all the time. I don't do social media stuff. I keep a LinkedIn profile there. We have an active crisis there. I have my own personal one on there, because people reach out to me on stuff like that. And, guys hit me up all the time. Hey, great. If we have to wrestle, if I'm wrestling and I'm taking somebody down, we've lost. That means we've gotten somebody in that close that we don't want. We want to be preventing those types of situations there. I'd rather have somebody come and say, hey, I took a counter surveillance training course. I did advanced first aid course, those types of things. Granted, we're looking at shooting, I'm not looking at, the guys that are top tier shooters are there. People that can shoot, things like that. Don't get me wrong. But I like those other soft skill courses that increases the driving, tactical driving course. We teach that too. Those are key, especially overseas when you're crash banging and stuff. Because, I've been in a couple of these things where we've been, had to plow through vehicles and those types of situations there. So any other questions, Shaun?
Yes, Fred. Razor, I want to bring you through one of the scenes at the Charlie Kirk tragedy where his EP team was covering him.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what does it feel like to be in a very similar circumstance? there's a lot of experiences you have that we haven't even discussed. But I want to show you. I want to show the audience the video real quick, and then I want to ask you this question. As Razor, as a
they're looking at, you know, getting to the principal there. Some of the, I'll be honest with you, some of the most challenging training courses that I've done, and I'm looking forward to this with Post in California, is training cops. Okay, and I've told you this. Why? When the crap starts happening, a lot of police are moving to the action, okay, not cover and evacuating. And we've done this so many times when we do these attack on principle drills, where just like these types of things here, and we find out 4 of them are tackling the assailant and nobody has the protectee and moving him out of the limelight and getting him in an evacuation point of view. You are body cover and moving him away from the threat. Yes, we say whoever's closest to the threat can neutralize that threat, but not all 6 guys turn around and jump on him and try to make an arrest and all those type of things. Your number one priority is keeping your protectee alive. Okay, so that type of situation there. And you saw Butler, there were more people and they were jumping up on stage with Trump. And I made my comments. You can look at them on Kaprakaya's things about, you know, I felt that they probably stayed a little too long on that stage making their assessment. And then I know Trump popped up. It looks great. And we put his fist, keep fighting type of thing. But you don't want to be presenting him back to the bad guys. At that time, they had no idea. They had no idea if there was a second shooter. You just know that he went down and was shot. You don't know from where, and you've got to move and cover and evacuate. If you are the body cover, get him out of that area. They jump down and all that kind of stuff, because they don't know where that shot came from, because there was no counter sniper teams at that point. Extraction, rescue, treatment. Okay. So I don't know what type of treatment he was getting there. You know, at that time, trying to stop the bleeding. I saw some things. He was bleeding profusely. I know that I watched a couple videos on there from Valhalla, who's at Nate and Paramount, which is Gary, and they were going back and forth talking about did it hit the vest and come up? They were talking, was he wearing a vest? I don't know definitively. Quite frankly, I'll let others, internet sleuths, determine that type of thing. That's not my concern. I'm into protective intelligence. How did this thing go down? What could have prevented it? What are the lessons learned in moving forward, especially for private security when you have a protectee? And I would say the lessons learned out of this thing is, look, if you can't control a crowd like that and have control over it where you're screening people in there, you've got to move these. You got to talk them up to his chief of staff or whoever's controlling him and move an event to where you have better control over it. It looks great. He's taken on people. He's in the crowd. But we have gotten to the point where in society that you can't trust anyone till. I can tell you from my time in Haiti with Aristide, we didn't leave the palace for almost 7 or 8 days. And he wanted to place a wreath 100 yards up outside the palace because we had 50,000 people surrounding us at all time. And he kept saying that he wanted to go out and talk to his people. And we kept saying, sir, you can't. We can't control this crowd. You know, we've got to keep it under control. And we had our engineers come down. We were one of the first ones to build a ballistic shield in front of him now, which is common practice, especially for Trump, if he's outside or if he's at a ball game and all these things. Now it's to the point where you can't even pick it up. You can't see it unless you're refracting light off of those types of things. So, you know, the lessons learned of this one is, again, the high ground. If you can't control it, you better be able to see it. And I am big on technology. And there's also things about scanning the network of, looking at who has, drones out there. I don't want to get into the anti-drone aspect on it because there's some legal issues with this thing, and also, some classified stuff on those types of things at some of the government agencies. But, what's available to the private industry here are the drones, and, looking at what the restrictions are, things like that, proper advancing, understanding the trauma units, where you're going to be, how far is that away, what's your secondary route, your primary route, how are we coming in, where's a hold room, where's a safe room. Hold room is an area that if it got too much heat and things like that, go to. Another room is where you could hold up and you can defend, like a safe haven type of area there too. What else you got there?
Well, I think I don't see any other questions. What do you look for in an EP agent, executive protection agent, whether it be a law enforcement officer or a private security officer? A lot of the audience is interested in these types of careers. Yeah. What are you
as I mentioned before, guys think it's all about looking good and big and having the skill sets of, karate, jujitsu, boxing, MMA. I get a lot of the MMA fighters. That's great. If we get that close and we're down wrestling, I want somebody, again, who can think on their feet. I judge people how well they've done the security operation plan in advance doing that one. Look at people who can take orders. At the spur of the moment there, whoever the agent in charge is, it looks like he had his guys in step, not, saying, we need to do this and that. And you have dissension in there. If somebody's in charge, respect that, train together. People that can work as a team. I don't need lone wolves, that they don't work well as a team. And the protective detail is a team. And how well you train and work together, you just get better and better and better. Those skill sets I mentioned there, such as first aid, is a lifesaver, as we know. The other ones, learning observation of, counter surveillance detection. I didn't talk about the EOD aspect of this. Dog teams, I'm sure they swept the stage in some of those areas there. Use of EOD to make sure the things set up there. But you may not have an EOD team. So we have people who have an IED type of training or understand the radius and what an object and where they could be hidden, and understanding the dynamics around IEDs and what bombs could look at helps if you have to do a regular search and don't have dogs. A vehicle search, we teach those types of things. I teach them to guard forces all around the world where you don't have a dog and you have the mirrors and you can do just as good a job. Okay, we used in Iraq and Afghanistan, we were using the Belgian Malinois. Why? They could handle the heat. Now everyone, 20 years ago, no one heard of that. There were German Shepherd and Doberman Pinschers, but, there was other breeds out there. But, if a police agency has one, again, it's social skills. If you got an agent, a good advance agent who is a salesman and can sell and get these resources for you to utilize, that force multiplier, that's great. You go in and demand and things like that. You're going to get the bare minimum from a chief of police or a campus police on their resources. So if they have dog teams and you can get to utilize them and say, hey, we only have so many of them and things like that. Because those are things that in Major League Baseball, we were looking at too. There's so many dog teams that are screening at the entrance areas and things like that. They're very, very, very helpful. That and technology again. And if you don't have those things, then good, clean thinking people who can think on their feet and looking at things. I remember working up UN in New York, services unit, which is their SWAT team, and they're great. They're part like firefighter, rescue guys, and SWAT guys all in one. They're rappelling off the Tappan Zee Bridge. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff, diving. They do all kinds of stuff there. And we're up with these guys on the rooftops. And I bought myself, and I still have them, a 10-power Leica. Binos, I had Zeiss and stuff. I like the Leica better, but nothing beats a good set of glass. And man, you're looking in windows. You're looking what opens up. All those types of things. And, for your counter snipers, or if you don't have counter snipers, you're looking for holes in that security that you can't see and out there. And again, a person with a set of binos that's working in a protective intelligence mode, that's looking out and looking at areas that could see in here, out. It could be out to 300 yards if there's an open site in there. That quad area there, that was about as max as you're going to be from what I've seen, about that 200 yards that looked in there. So every venue site is different. You got to treat it differently, but we develop, and through our training, we'll go through these checklists and give people that skill set to be able to go out there and accomplish, putting a good operation plan together for a brief back to the team. What about the future? Can AI monitoring and camera feed is a good idea? Yes. Off subject here, AI. We use Verkada camera systems because we got a good working deal with them. We're working with some of our clients in their operations centers where they have unarmed guys monitoring that at the same time. And we can have them utilize AI for facial recognition, plates, and a lot of other things that we can't pick up. Because if you ever go into an op center or any of these others, you got a guy that's watching 60, 100, 200 some cameras, and they come up, they split, and they do this. You've got AI, and using that technology in there, they can pick up stuff, which is good. So again, I'm a big proponent of using technology to supplement and heighten your skill set when you're doing protection.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. Well, Razor, it looks like you answered everything. How do we get a hold of you for training opportunities? Maybe somebody is well qualified and they want to join your team, for maybe insights on the EP community. Sure. I know you do a blog too on your website. How do we find
Aaron handles a lot of our social media stuff. Again, I'm always open, run through you, but activecrisis.com. We are called Active Crisis Consulting, but our website is www.activecrisis.com. If you have an EP team that's out there and you want to get trained for advanced, take it, step it up and stuff, we'd be definitely open and do an assessment to see how we could enhance that and what you're looking for. We can do the hard skill stuff. We did some tactical driving for a client, and we did an advanced one, and they wanted some. After we did the one, they wanted some more, and we did that for their EP teams, their drivers and stuff like that. So we do that. Again, the EP, we can train other EP units. We do EP ourselves, and we train SWAT teams. We have advanced leadership. We do night vision. You do regular CQC. It went from CQB to CQC, close quarter combat. Now, the thing with people go, hey, how about a 3-day semi-auto, M4 course? We don't have canned courses. We develop courses around the needs for things. So I'm not a gun site. I'm not, some of these other ones. We have access to a lot of different training venues there. We look at the crawl, walk, run. A lot of some of the SWAT teams aren't true SWAT teams. They come together once a month. So they're on patrol, then come together as a special unit. And, they've got to get back into the fundamentals. And, once you get your fundamentals, then, we can increase the speed and things like that. So it's a run, walk, crawl type of thing. A lot of other ones want to come in and they want to skip all that and say, hey, we already know how to do all this thing. We want to sprint. We want you to challenge us and all this. And we get in there and then we have to throttle back a little bit. We use the Gelio, which is good for like blue on blue type of stuff. Gelio is like a simunitions, but it's like clear water type thing. So it doesn't stain up the walls. If we in the malls that we have some contracts with, we bring the police in there that will respond, so they know how the doors swing and they open. They have the keys, and we use it through the night when no one's there with them, and do active shooter and things like that, and use that there. And the Gelios are good because it cleans up real nice. So we do that. So Neil's a good one when he gets his hair gel in there. He's been on Classic Firearms a couple times. Jim and Kaya are good buddies. He's been on Classic Firearms. You can see those guys over there. Kaya does, his own stuff on the side there. But I've seen Jocko, Neil, or Jim's been on Jocko, his time and things like that. I if I'm asked, I come on an assessment day. I don't go out and pound doors to get on the videos. I don't mind doing this. I really like engaging with people there. I'm looking at, as a CEO, running the company, getting the new business, talking with clients, prospective clients, things like that. I'm always looking at the recruitment element when I run into guys overseas and stuff that are working with there, and they say, hey, how about this? How about that? I said, hey, fire your resume to it. So look on, activecrisis.com, look at our website. You can see our bona fides is there of all the owners and stuff like that. We have some guys that are working with some other companies that we have good working relations with. We have a couple other friends that are working right now in Gaza, and reach out to Mike. He's in Gaza running some of that, and he's running a company that we have a good working relationship with that's in there working that thing there. And, we don't have problems with guys bouncing from, with other companies and coming back if they're active for us. So, we're looking at having stuff in the spur of the moment to come to, if we have some stuff pop up overseas. I've worked and traveled over 130 countries. I'm currently overseas right now. I spent a lot of time in Lebanon, probably 5 years in Lebanon. I really like the high threat areas there. Kind of gets the juices going. My age, I still love, engaging with people, instructing and putting together operations. I said probably all in all about 10 years in Afghanistan and Iraq between government and private sector there. But, back stateside, I'll come down, see you when I get back mid-November or something like that. I got to work my way back west and get this thing running with you, Shaun. But it's been great having me on, Shaun. You're a great friend and a brother in this thing, and my partner's reaching out to you too. It's great, and we're going to have you working with us on some courses too, some other stuff. So appreciate all the. Let me say, Lewis, great, thank you very much. But hey, thanks for hosting me on here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Fred. I can't thank you enough. We learned so much today. This is like a free webinar. The guys are going to be excited to watch this, the ones who were not able to watch this live. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you so much a million times. Thank you, Fred.
One last thing. You've been getting a lot of inquiries about it. We want to get an iron out, to make sure that course is running and get the critique. We call it, a burn-in period for that course for California. And once we get that down, we're comfortable with everything. Then, we'll get the private sector, offer an open enrollment private sector. And, with that, we'll do a background on guys. So, I'm not training people with domestic abuse that can't carry a gun and all those kind of things there and all that kind of stuff and put liability out there. So we'll get this thing moving. Just be patient with us. Appreciate it.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Razor.
You got it, bud. Thank you.
Excuse me. All right, guys. So that concludes the interview I had with Razor, aka Fred Piry. Good thing I didn't butcher his name. Hey, guys, check out the description box below for links. I left a link to Active Crisis Prevention. Active Crisis Consulting, LLC. You guys want to check out their website. They have an awesome blog. If you have qualifications to work EP, send them your resume. We have some upcoming dignitary protection training on the law enforcement side. I'm going to probably push for December, maybe even January. I need to wait until Razor comes back into the country. That's going to be great. If we could fill up that class and we can bring clients in, even from other states, I think as long as we fill it up and we're able to work together, and I'm sure we are, I know for a fact that Active Crisis Consulting is going to do private sector training where you're screened and you're able to attend the course. It's not going to be a super cheap course, but you're going to get your values worth for sure. 100% for sure. I know Juan Pais had a question. Let me just post this question real quick. And it revolves around how does a security company start getting into EP? I couldn't, I'm sorry, Juan, I couldn't allow Fred on the video too much longer. He worked an entire shift. He's out of country. But we can get these questions answered in other live streams. I'm not the expert on getting into EP. I've done videos on how it usually works, but I know you want to answer directly from him. But we'll get to this at another point in time for sure. All right, guys. Thank you so much for chiming in for the last hour and 15 minutes. I really would like to see you guys coming out to California and training with us. We had one gentleman fly from Alaska, and another gentleman come in from another part of Northern California, and it was worth the drive. I'm actively training with CWPS, Citywide Protection Services. We have a California Post Sniper Instructor School that's coming up October 20th through the 24th. And every single month, we have two times a month, we have California Post certified active shooter training. And that is in Santee, California. That's basically Eastern San Diego County. That's directly with Randy Nunez. Randy is a former Army Ranger attached to some pretty interesting unit. I don't even know how much more I can go into that. So come out, guys. It's worth it. It's worth the flight. Come out the train. And I really enjoy all of you. Okay. Be safe out there, guys. Thank you so much. Check out the description box.